Hail to the king, baby. It's Duke Nukem, and it's time for Inside the Game. Sit down and shut up and start watching.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of ITG Game of the Year. Boys, we're all together. This is like a very rare occasion here at ITG, right? So I feel I'm feeling good today. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get into. There's no doubt about that. Game of the Year has been an interesting one for 2024, to say the least, I think, right? Is where we get into it. But before we even get to that part, everybody, joining me today is Michael Fisher. See him each and every day on the Daily Show with me. And the other guys are always there for the reviews. Coming in hot with their hot takes. We got Scott Savage. How are you, Scotty? We got the guy
bad today.
all the way from jolly old England, Mr. Steve Radley. How are you, brother?
Not too bad, thank you very much.
There you go. And our first person shooting guru, none other than Corey Askew. Corey, how are you, buddy?
Guys, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yo, boys, I'm pumped. It's been a long time. Been waiting for this moment. Let's break down how the system works. We've compiled a massive list of games we've all played. So one of the games, at least somebody has played. We haven't just picked something nobody's ever played and said, here it is for Game of the Year, right? It doesn't work that way. So we picked all the games that we played over throughout the course of the year. From there, we shrunk that list down to 10. From that list, we all picked our top 5, with number 1 being our Game of the Year that we think deserves Game of the Year. Not our personal, but what we think deserves Game of the Year. The way that worked was number 1 gets 50 points, number 2 gets 40, so on all the way down to number 5 where it gets 10. This is how we figured out the winner for Game of the Year. Boys, it was an interesting list to say, because I'm the only one on the team that knows. Everybody sent me their list, and then yeah, it's been interesting. Anybody with predictions before we get going?
No.
Nothing, eh?
It's
Nothing.
anyone's game, basically. Excuse the pun. It's anyone's game. Basically.
Oh wow,
So true.
They all
answer
deserve to
with
be
project-
there in one way or another.
all right.
Oh yeah.
So you guys ready? We'll start at number 5. We'll work our way up. From there, we're going to get into our actual list. My list, Scott's list, Steve's list, Michael and Corey's. And then from there, what we honestly feel is our personal Game of the Year. Kind of one of the things. And I got a couple honorable mentions to get to as well. Are you guys ready
Yeah.
for number 5?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Here we go. Number 5 is Fear the Spotlight. Comes in at number 5. I did not see this coming, guys. I don't know about you. That was a shocker. Steve, Scott, you guys are on the team for reviewing this one. Hot
Yes.
takes?
Oh man, just put together by 2 individuals, I believe.
Yeah.
It was so impressive to get into something that was that deep and so surprisingly so. We got a little bit of a glimpse of it at Summer Game Fest, and that was where really the first impressions are everything. I was locked into that. So I was super happy to get hands on it. And when I did, it kind of opened up into a somewhat cute, somewhat familiar kind of story. It was really interesting.
Yes, and we did also notice the change when we actually got to review it compared to what we played at the Summer Game Fest.
Oh,
We
yeah.
found, like, graphically, it was a bit more fuzzy, a bit more blurry, that kind of retro look. And it wasn't bad, but this time round, they sort of polished it up a little bit. But for me, like I said, that hooked me in was the narrative side, the voice acting. It pulled me in. It didn't put me worried about too much what the graphics looked like. Everything, the mechanics worked fine. You go there, you get your puzzles. It was that go there, find a screwdriver, explore without a bit of stealth in, without getting caught, and then using the screwdriver to open vents. And so it's that kind of finding products to help you through the story and basically find out the main story of there was a fire at the school where students had died, basically.
Was it spooky?
Yeah, and it just gets bigger and more dark after that too. It does have a spooky angle. There's moments fear the spotlight. There's moments where the spotlight is looking for you.
Which is fair, right? This is from Blumhouse Games too, right? So this is their new foray into publishing. So
Yes.
a hot start, right? With number 5 on the ITG list.
Well, Steve kind of made it make sense by saying that, he didn't notice the things that I think some people would pick out and say, that's the reason I want to play that game. Visually, it doesn't look good. They wrote such a good story that becomes so secondary and you get so involved. I mean, that's a reason that it made made the list to some degree, right? Like it got the points for a reason, right? So,
and they actually turned around and said, this game is not perfect, but we put our heart and soul into it. And it's actually when you actually play, you can actually feel it, sense it as well. I think one done all the writing and the other done all the computer graphics and put it together. And it was just them two. And then, like I say, Blumhouse sort of gave them the support they needed to finish the game off. And there was two sides to the story as well, which is kind of cool. Played the two characters of Vivian and Amy.
That's cool. It was very
great.
cool.
They were able to accomplish so much in the horror realm without devolving into gore or necessary danger. It was great that it led you there with that narrative, because by the end of the game, I was invested in these two characters. I wanted to see what happens next.
Brad joins us and says if Erdtree wins the game of the year, he's gonna riot. No spoilers.
You have to wait to find out.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
But getting along here, number 5 was a tie.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The plot thickens.
Helldivers 2, boys, and let me tell you, when I made the gameplay for this, I forgot how damn good this game was. Jump back in, and I had a blast. I'm telling you, this game was incredible. Tied for number 5. We all played this at one point or another, right? It's one of those things.
Yes.
We all just dove in here, and it was such a good game. It was so much fun. And you bring everybody together, and then the way the community built upon that, and then the developers built off of the community. Like, man, there wasn't a game like this year to even match it. I know it's not our game of the year, coming in at number 5, even though I praised so heavily about it here. But Corey, I know you were all over this one.
Well, I mean, it was definitely one of my favorite games that I've played this year. It was so much fun. And we talked about this when we were narrowing the list down from 10, that this game deserves to be, or narrow the bigger list down to 10, that this game deserves to be on that list of 10. It did things this year that no other game did. And like you said, Drew, you touched on it. It really brought such a sense of community around the game based around this kind of fake kind of militarism type situation they have going on in the game. Everyone's doing it for Super Earth and all that awesome stuff. And that's really where, the sense of community comes from. We saw it on social media. We saw it, like you said, the developers were so heavy into it. Yeah. Did they hit a bumpy road a little bit later on? Yeah. But this game actually kept its steam going for quite a while. And as far as how many games do it nowadays, where we see maybe a month or 2 of a game being fairly hot, this game was like 4 or 5 months before we started to see things tail off. And I mean, this has got to make a lot of people's lists this year. This game was so much fun. Like you said, Drew, jumping back into it, since they've made some of the updates and brought things back now to the way they were before, they brought the fun back to the game. And this game is nonstop fun.
I think what took it by surprise was it just come out from nowhere. No one knew this was coming. It was like, oh, check this out, free download. It's like, oh, this is really cool. This is really fun. Yes, I know it's a little bit biased against Starship Troopers, I believe, where we kind of like the big alien bugs. But like you said, Corey, the fun, the community, and obviously the little quirkiness as well of like putting mines or little drop markers on your own teammates to sort of get bombed on or something.
Oh yeah, blowing each other up was always the blast, right? That was like a highlight moment.
It was a meme factory. The whole game was a meme factory. I loved the cheese. That first, I'm back, honey. Where are you? Oh no, that commercial with the big bug and the guy is. Oh, I was laughing from the start, and it only got better.
Michael, you played a lot of this too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I love this game. I think kind of like what they were talking about, right? Like this was kind of this year's No Man's Sky, right? Where there's controversy, but it recovered. I can't believe what would have happened if they hadn't had controversy. I know this game was a ton of fun. I have a hot take about this game, but I want to wait to see because my hot take might be revealed a little later in the list. I'm curious because I don't know if it's as unique as I think Drew thinks about it, but I'll save that hot take for later on.
Fair enough. Sounds like we're getting to number 4, boys. Let's get into number 4 here with Space Marine 2. Coming in at number 4.
Brother.
That's
Protects.
Yeah, Scott, you like this one a lot.
Oh, so much. Yeah, it was something I've looked at from the outside, being a big fan of Warhammer, and then it kind of just took all of that and threw it together in a really bloody, disgusting mess. And then you get into the just beyond my interest in Warhammer, we get into some of the actual mechanics of the combat, and you're doing parrying, you're doing melee and shooting at the same time. It gets incredibly hard sometimes, but that was exactly the point. I loved it.
No, this was a ton of fun. Michael, myself, and Alton streamed it a couple times, and the
I do
chaos of the
need some
game
help.
brought too was just nuts, right? Michael, you had a good time with this one. You were playing. You got all the way finished. We all finished it actually at this point, and then went back into the multiplayer. Oh, well, shame on you, Scott. Then that's sounds like another Scott issue, right? It sounds like another Scott
I was
issue.
holding out. I was
You
holding
got
out
to
for
finish
you
with
and
3
Alton.
people. You got to
Yeah.
finish with 3 people, by the way, because the end of the game, you all get different voice lines when you're different characters, which I thought was kind of
Oh,
cool.
that's
So
cool.
you got to finish with 3 people. But no, this game's a ton of fun. The gore was amazing. And my hot take almost segued in perfectly because I felt like Space Marines and Helldivers were almost the same game. That is kind of where I came from. I was
really?
like, the same game. Whichever game you like more, I thought would make the list. So I'm kind of happy both of them made the list, but I really was like, I've got Blood and Gore 2, and I've got Meme Simulator 2, and I'm just fighting bugs in both of them.
Yeah, it's hard to actually argue that point. It's because they kind of came at polar opposites of the year. We got Helldivers early in the year, we got Space Marines 2 later in the year, but this game brings so much lore and background to the story of what some people don't even know what Space Marines or Warhammer is, right? There's so much behind the scenes of what we're actually getting in this game, and they're just adding to this game, and it's the bones that they've created with this. Like we said, the multiplayer started to kind of wear thin a little bit. We needed some updates to happen after the first month or so, which they've been rolling out, so things have been good in that realm as far as what they've been keeping up with. Hopefully we'll see some more regular updates, but at the same time, like, this game, it was like nonsense the entire time, Drew. Like you said, the chaos, but it was so cinematic in its chaos, which made it so good.
Yeah.
There were definitely moments that we stopped and just kind of watched all the chaos in the background go by. It was like, that is incredible. Like, what a technical feat to sit there and watch. And now I'm not a Warhammer dude whatsoever. And all of a sudden, here we are. Space Marine 2 comes out. Everybody's talking about it. We're all over it. Had an absolute blast. But yeah, that was number 4. But we're not done with number 4 yet.
We got another tie.
As we have another tie. Last tie. This is the last tie of the
Okay,
night.
last tie,
This
last
is it.
tie.
This is it. You ready? Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown was an absolute masterpiece. We'll get to where it landed on my list a little bit later. But everybody got, oh, what is this? Look at that art style. Oh, it's a side scroller. It's a Metroidvania. Yo, this is one of the most incredible games I've played this year, right, Scott?
That was the most angering thing, was people looking at it and going, oh, why is it 2 dimensions? You fools. It began as 2 dimensions. I was there 3,000 years ago. But no, it was wonderful from the beginning to the end, and it did the Metroidvania thing perfectly. You get all these different little icons and different abilities to go back to them with, and then the most maybe innovative thing in a Metroidvania in quite some time, the ability to take those screenshots. So you could remember exactly what that weird thing was that I was looking at. And now I finally have the ability. I have to confess, though, I haven't beaten the very last boss fight. I've
Right
gotten
at the
to
end.
like stage 4 out of I don't know how many, and it just keeps going. I had to put it down, and that is a spot of shame.
Going back and getting the game footage, like, this is one of the highlights for me. Like, I went back to get all this footage. I'm like, oh man, trip down memory lane. Like, it was just fantastic. You come back to a game you haven't touched in a while. Like, okay, how does this work again?
Yes.
Right?
So
Like,
many mechanics.
oh my goodness, I forgot how deep this game really went, right at the end of the day. This game will surprise you. If you have not played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, you're definitely missing out on one of the highlights of the year, because it is that good. There's so much in there. Yes, it is very different from what we're used to. The remake, who knows where that is going to be, but we have this in the meantime, and this is such a satisfying. I hope we get a sequel. I don't think we will, from what the rumors and things we've heard about. But
Let's talk about hot takes. I think this one actually did Metroid better than Metroid Dread did Metroid.
I
I
like
might
that.
take some heat for that, but I'll defend it.
It's so good. What's up,
Mind
Steve?
you, though, Joe, I never played this one, but we played The Rogue.
Shame on you. Yes.
I know. It's similar there, because they're both very vibrant, fun games, bouncing off the walls and that platform kind of thing. So like I said, even though I've not played that one, I really enjoyed the Rogue one, and maybe it is something that I would like to.
I think you'd
jump
like
into
this. This
Yeah.
one's a lot easier to get into, Steve, because it isn't the rogue-like experience when you get into the Rogue Prince of Persia, right? So you are in a different man. Yeah, it's like it's punishing. But yeah, this one allows you to go back and forth, and next thing you know, like you at the very beginning, you see spots in the map that you can go to, but you can't make yet, right? So then you traverse, you go out, and then you're like, oh, I got that ability now. Circle back, you get up here, you get into this. I'm like, oh man, the way this story unfolds, absolutely incredible. What a wonderful game.
You could spend hours and hours just trying to check all the little hidden secrets and stuff along the way, and that's something that I think it does better than Metroid does.
Fair enough. Well, we're not done yet. Let's get into number 3. And we're going to get into Black Myth Wukong. Michael, this one's a highlight for you, buddy. What do you got on this? This is all yours.
Yeah, I played this game. I absolutely loved it. I'll be honest. I'm shocked it finished this high because the art is amazing, right? The art is 10 out of 10. If we were voting just on art, this would be game of the year.
Yeah.
The gameplay is very mid, right? It's very much like a Cheerio style gameplay where they do it well, but it's not going to blow you away. But to me, the art style is it is next level. I don't know if we'll get a game in 2025 that matches the art style. I remember hopping in and just being like, this game is amazing, and I'm sorry that I only have a 3070 Ti Black Myth Wukong, because I wish I had a 4090 to see this game in full ultra, because this is it. The world is beautiful. Every scene, you're just like, this is amazing. You can't get any better. You go to the next level. Well, this is even more amazing. So I thought the art in this game was incredible. Gameplay, not so much. I don't think even I had it this high on my list, which I know you said we'll get into, Drew. But the art, I think, carries this game, and I have high praise. And I kind of want a sequel just to see what they can do with the more graphics in a couple of years with more generations. Because, oh my gosh.
We're not done yet, though, right? Like, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say I never played this one, but I was quite invested in looking it up and reading a bit more about it. And what was Michael saying about the combat was, I do believe you only have a staff. You don't get, there's not a major choice of weapons. It relies heavily on parrying and timed moves. I do believe you could get like spirits on the way to help you in combat as well, which is supposed to be the awesome part. But visually, it looks amazing. I do love what they did. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, as my comparison was Black Phantom Zero. I played at Summer Game Fest.
It's next year, right, Steve?
I believe it is, yes. Yeah. And like Ghost of Tsushima as well, that kind of art style looks full of, I love that kind of history, those kind of games, those samurais, or that
very Asian inspired.
Yes.
This one,
It was an environment and a game that needed to be brought to this genre, this generation of consoles and PCs that we're using. Like you said, Michael, like the visuals of this game were unbelievable. I didn't get to play it, Steve. I was like you, I was very invested in seeing what people were saying about it, kind of going through and seeing what this game was offering. And yes, there were some parts that people didn't like, but it's one of those games where you got a complete game from start to finish, and that's not something we normally get. So it falls into its own kind of grouping this year with some of the other games that we have been getting. And I think that's probably part of the reason why it ended up a little bit higher on this list.
There's one I was always watching too, right? Like I'm just there with everybody else. Michael's the only one who played this game, which is nuts.
I wish I had time to do it all right now.
Just load in the first level and go AFK and stare around. That's all you got to
do. Dude.
No, I had to put that one aside because there was just so many things coming out. I couldn't invest the time in it, and that's a shame. I saw the Wukong story and how that kind of, I've seen that played out in Dragon Ball Z as a kid. And I know it's not the same story. I'd much rather get it from Black Myth Wukong. So unfortunately, I've had more Dragon Ball than I have Black Myth this year.
Let's get into number 2 because it is a big one. Dragon Age, the Dreadwolf. Or sorry, now as we know it, the Veilguard. Yeah, right.
I was gonna say,
yeah. I'm so used to still going back. All right, so to my point though. He's still called the Dreadwolf throughout the whole thing, right? So it's one of those things, I don't know why they changed the name. It really kind of sucks. But the game itself does not. Because this game, people crapped all over it at the beginning of launch who have never played the game. They pulled a couple lines of dialogue. And that's what they sit on. And it's very unfortunate because they are missing out on what is the return to form almost for BioWare.
Yeah.
Right, Scott?
Oh, that's how I put it. Is BioWare is back, baby. Look at all the different characters and everything. The way the different telling is played out through different ginormous events, or just characters doing their little side missions and stuff. Some of the different conversations that you have in private with them, like I've fallen in love with BioWare characters all the time, mostly in
Yeah.
Mass Effect, but this one really hit me, and to see it kind of somebody taking small snippets out of it and then blowing it up, making a mountain out of a molehill. Really, it was just, I've never felt so passionate to defend a game, especially once I got more than 2 hours into it and I realized all these things that people are saying and complaining about. I'm not even going to see it, and if I do, I don't even care.
Steve, where are you at? Because this is your first time in a Dragon Age game, right?
Yes, it is. And do you know what? Is I was looking at the clips and our review that we did,
Yeah.
and I think for me is like, well, I scored it a little bit low because I think I'd out of sync. But technically, the game itself, it looks amazing. I was watching a bit of our review, and I say the cutscenes, and like you said, the BioWare. I thought was really cool is the decision making of how it could change the story. But when you're sitting there watching your characters and they look absolutely amazing on screen, it's like, oh, now I've got to make a decision. Hope I picked the right thing.
Yeah.
And then just going off, and it, like I said, I thought the voice actor was awesome, very believable characters. It looks amazing. I really enjoyed the combat of actually getting two of you partners or comrades, whoever you decide to pick, to help you on the battling with their own unique abilities, and then all the upgrades. Awesome game.
And then you get into their stories too, though, right? That's the other side of it. Sorry to cut you off there, Scott. But there's a whole other side of this besides the main focus of the campaign. And the way they twisted so early in the beginning of the game, I was like, oh man, this is how this is going to start going. And then we get into other paths. And then as I'm out in the middle of my adventure, I just hear I run into this ghost, which then leads me into this other side quest that takes 20 minutes, half hour. And then I come back to continue on with the main quest I was doing. Like there's just, and then so many things just hidden, little secrets for you to go and explore and go find. It was fantastic. I was just talking to my brother about it too, and he's like, "Yo, this is his hot take. So just bear with me. He likes this better than Baldur's Gate 3."
Oh wow, he spent a lot of time in that though, didn't he?
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate.
He loves Baldur's Gate.
This game, we know review bombing's a real thing.
Yes.
This game definitely got hit with some of that. That's what makes video reviews, I think, significantly more relevant than just text reviews that you see online. It's always worth finding out what people's opinions are that aren't just written forms. But it's one of those things, right? Like it catches like wildfire. As soon as you hear a couple bad things, that's all people talk about. Yeah. And then, I mean, I know when you guys were in the middle of playing this game, we'd had a few meetings in between for other things, and I had asked, like, how are you guys enjoying this game? You guys are like, it's awesome. I don't know why people are talking so much crap about it. And it's honestly, it's again, Scott, more back to your point. It's a lot of people that haven't even played the game. They're just going off of maybe opinions they've seen, just fragments of certain things, and they create their own opinion, right? And it's like, holy cow, here we go again.
People are just jump on the bandwagon. It's like, it's such a shame that they troll the games, like say not play it, give it bad reviews, and then the studio closes down. People lose their jobs because of it.
Yeah,
just for like someone just to slander basically on a game.
I've seen some of the conversation wrap around even people trying to question its value at full price, at sales price. And I'm thinking, like, how disrespectful can you possibly be? Do you have any idea how much work went into that game? And to compare it to something like Baldur's Gate in a negative light, to say Baldur's Gate is so much better, even if that is true, and that very well might be your opinion, there's no reason why they both can't be great together.
It's so true.
Happens, like the way the story and the action of that game was just so big, so encompassing, that even if all these little snippets that people are taking that are truthfully 2% of the game, if that, even if that were a much larger percentage, it doesn't matter. There's really no point at which this game could be deemed a failure.
Yeah, it's very cool because later on, like you pick your class, you pick your backstory and all this stuff, right? And I run into this person who's the Lords of Fortune, and all of a sudden they're like, we have this connection. I'm like, man, I'm like hours deep into this game, and all of a sudden this person's like, "Hey, I work for them too." And now we're, oh man, like I don't experience that in other games, right? Now I get, granted, this is a BioWare game. This is kind of what they do. This is why they went back to the roots of, hey, we should do a story-focused game and not a other. We'll let you guys figure that one out.
Yeah.
So, but it just pulls you in so many different directions, and it's just every time I'm out there, I'm like, what else am I gonna find? What else am I gonna run into? And then the combat with the combos you're pulling off, the crew you're bringing together.
Oh, and they get so much better as you go along. You just get so much better and proficient at it. It matters who you have as companions because their abilities mix with each other. And there's something from Mass Effect. It's BioWare really at its peak.
It's so good, but there's still one remaining game.
I'm very interested to know what's tallied up. And I got a feeling I might know what it might be, but it's not what I would have expected when we started this whole process.
The number one ITG game of the year goes to Astrobot.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, Astrobot's gonna make everybody's list for sure. Some of these other games might not make all of our lists.
Yeah,
I knew Astrobot was gonna make the list. That's that tells you something right there.
I was shocked. Honestly, I was really yes, I was. I didn't think it was gonna be Dragon Age. I think that's where I came down to. Yo, what's up, Gaming Graham? Good to see you, buddy. Looks like hey, thank you. All of our handsome faces are on screen. He appreciates that. It's Astrobot Game of the Year. When we are talking though throughout the year, right? We're so heavily invested in the world of Dragon Age. You got to worry about the little, hey, this is what we're on right now, so the hype is real, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you then encompass the rest of the year without forgetting Prince of Persia from way back when it all started? Helldivers 2, right? When we get into our list. So to come out to it and the scores drop and I'm tallying it all up and I'm like, man, Astrobot just took this. Very curious to see how it's going to line up with the Game Awards, right? Is that the same, or is Erd Tree take it? We'll see how it all goes. Right?
We were a little more specific on the larger list. We broke down to 10, right? So I mean, this wasn't meant to be a replica of what you're going to watch.
No, not at all.
Based on what we played, but it's again, we started going through this and I hadn't heard Astrobot yet. I'm like, is it going to be at the top of this list?
Yeah, it really was. It was good Steve and I, when we were all down to Summer Game Fest, Steve and I got in with PlayStation and went down and checked it out. And we're sitting there and we're just smiling. I'm like, okay, this is just like an hour demo. Can this carry over throughout the rest of the game? And it was just nonstop, right, Steve?
It did not disappoint. We said from the beginning, there is no talk over, narrative, or voice acting.
Yeah.
But the bot actually done it for you. The story that your PlayStation Starship gets exploded in space, and all you have to go find the parts and rescue the bots using platforms, abilities, and I think what it is it's a game for everyone. Where I think from the list, there's different genres to suit everyone's style, and I thought for me, Astrobot was a game. It doesn't matter what you're into, everyone's gonna love it. It's just one of those fun. It just makes you want to smile. There was a couple of PlayStation cameos in the box as well, different themed worlds, and I just thought they just nailed it. It was awesome.
The cameos were outstanding. Yeah. You're always going, okay, who am I going to unlock next? Oh no, right? You knew some were coming because we saw the trailers and then we played it down at Summer Game Fest. So when we get back into it and we like, who else is coming around? Man, I didn't see that one, right? Parappa the Rapper's there, and all of a sudden Ellie's there, and Joel's there. Spoilers if you haven't played it. Listen, you should be playing it already.
And Nathan,
there's no Xbox transplants over there, is there?
No, there's nothing.
Oh, well, they might find their way into a new one. If I didn't even play Astrobot at all, but I've seen a little bit snippets of gameplay here and there.
Yeah.
And even just the look of everything is just so appealing. And so well.
It kind of reminds me of like the old Mario's of finding the hidden worlds and different something to take you somewhere different. Oh, little mini games and things like that on the different planets. And I just thought it was just well done. It was vibrant and just so much fun.
It was just complete, right? It was like I said, kind of going back to my point earlier. It was a complete game from start to finish, and like you guys said, it was just fun. It's for everybody. You can sit down. You have never held a game controller in your hand before. You can you can play this game. And I honestly, when it comes down to when I think of game of the year, yes, there's a lot of amazing games out there, but
Sure.
if it's not a game that everyone can play and have fun doing, then it might not actually be the reason it should make the top of the list. So this game, I think, as wild as it may seem when we say Astrobot's our top, number one, it
Sure.
encompasses a lot of things that I would consider what a game of the year should be when it comes down to what a video game is to its players.
Gamer
And the other
Graham
thing
chimes in.
is-
Hang on one sec.
sorry.
Gamer Graham chimes in and says, plus, Astrobot is this generation's Super Mario Brothers. It is the perfect
there you go.
platformer to begin your platforming journey. Right?
And do you know
Straight
what?
up.
That's true.
And they also made so much use of the DualSense controller. It was like using a,
Oh,
a
yeah.
Wii controller. You move it around to control your ship and the audio through the microphone on it and the controls and the vibration. It just was awesome to play with the game as well. That the controller made the interaction more immersive.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely
I
outstanding.
think it's given me a bit of a hunger for platformers, and that's something that's brand new. I skipped over Mario as a kid, which was bizarre. I was a Sonic kid, all right.
That's
I'll
fair.
just
Yeah,
admit
Ah,
it.
okay.
All right.
All right.
And those rings.
Well, the thing with the Sonic is that people left that in the past, maybe 20 years ago, and I was one of them. So seeing this, everybody all together having a great time with Astrobot, man, I really want to play that game.
Absolutely. All right, so we're halfway through the show, more or less. We're cutting things a little short here just because of USA Today. Shout out. Let's get into our top 10 list, and then we're gonna get into our actual list, guys. All right, you ready? Let's break this down. So here's a go. Andrew Parsons joins us. I mean, look at that jetpack in Astrobot, dude. That jetpack is awesome. I'm telling you, you never had so much fun until you played Astrobot, and this is why it is our
Jetpack.
game of the year. Yep,
Jetpack makes every game better.
doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Literally every game.
Okay, so I'm trying to find our top 10. Here's our top 10 list. So, after we made this massive list, we shrunk it down to 10. Our 10 was, which you saw most of them if you've been watching us so far, because there's 2 ties. But we had Space Marine 2, Helldivers 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Astrobot, Fear the Spotlight, Black Myth Wukong, Pow World was in there, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, Hellblade 2 was in there, and Neva. Which, okay, now let's get into our actual list. Is that, you guys have your own list? You guys have your list? Ready?
Yeah, I've got mine here.
All right,
Yep.
Corey, give us your list. What was your, starting at number 5 to your number 1? Go, what do you got?
Okay, so number 5, I went with Pow World, and I think part of the reason why we even picked Pow World to make the top 10 list was, again, kind of what it did as far as the phenomenon of what the game was when it released. It kind of came out, everyone's like, oh my god, this is Pokemon, but we get guns, and it's a survival game, and there's all this other stuff going on, and there was a lot of things that swirled around it, some positive, some negative, but at the same time, like, it was a huge game when it dropped, and it's still a very popular game. You know, there's a lot of people that were playing it, and that's part of the reason why I wanted it to make my list. I had personally played it as well too, so that was part of the reason too why it also made my list. Some of these games I wasn't obviously able to get into as you guys were, so that's where Power World lands as number 5 for me. Next one, number 4, I had Astrobot. Again, a game I didn't actually get to dive into, but based on what you guys played at Summer Game Fest, when you reviewed the game, and just things I've seen about the game, it had to make my list. And I had a few other ones in my mind at the time when I made this list that I feel like personally for me were a little bit higher. So Astrobot came in at 4. Number 3, we went Black Myth Wukong. Again, this is kind of echoing back. This was a complete experience, a game from start to finish. Yes, did it have its issues? For sure. But again, man, those visuals, it's going to carry it through. And I'm a big visuals guy, so it was going to make the middle of this list for me all the way through. Number 2, we've got Space Marines 2. I played a ton of this game. I was looking forward to this game for a long time. And the biggest thing for me was I actually thought the multiplayer was what was really going to make me stick with this game. But man, the stories and then the operations and some of the stuff afterwards is where I got hooked. I'm a Warhammer nerd, so jumping into this was like every dream of mine possible. And again, just an amazing, solid game that, yes, has some issues, but it is a game that is getting continually updated. So the product we got at launch, I thought was flawless. Honestly, I had so much fun playing through the story of this game. That's why it's at number 2. Now, you guys know me. I'm a big shooter guy, so I think you can probably figure out what I put at number 1. It was Helldivers 2. I think this game, again, did something that no other game did this year, and it was take the attention of everybody playing video games and being like, what is this game? Whether you wanted to play it or not, this game was everywhere. There was clips all over the internet. This game was just it was nonstop, right? Like we said, and it lasted for not just 1, not just 2 months. We're talking, 3, 4, 5 months before things really started to tail off for this game. So that's why I put this one at the top of my list. I think it did something that no other game did this year. Whether or not you may like the style of this game, I think it deserves to be near the top of everybody's list.
What's your personal game of the year?
Oof. I went through everything I played, and honestly, when I come back to it, I'm still putting Helldivers up there, and that's because I toyed with this list and went Space Marine 2, Helldiver 2, 1-2 for a bit because I really enjoyed both. Exactly. And just for me, I just kept coming back to Helldivers because, like you said, Drew, jumping back into this game within the last month or so, now that things have changed, they've updated, I was like, oh my God, this game's so much fun.
Nice.
Just that you can't wipe the smile off your face when you play that game.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Steve, let's get into your list. Let's get it quick. We have 4 others, the 3 others to get to still. Running the time.
Not a problem. So for me, for number 5, I actually went with Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I actually thought good, solid game. It's everything we talked about. Yeah. Loved the characters. It was one of those ones I was actually, the story and the interaction of the characters actually got me intrigued instead of skipping the dialogue. So I wanted to listen to what they were saying. Yeah. Well, also because you got decision making at the end as well. So it's always good to pay attention to what they're talking about. And also the little clues. So for me, I love the story about the gods, the Dreadwolf. Awesome game. So that was my number 5 for Dragon Age. For number 4 was Fear the Spotlight.
Yep. Cool.
Again, what we talked about, 2 people. It wasn't going out for high-end graphics. They had their story they wanted to portray. And for the resources they had, I thought top-notch to them. They didn't need a massive team. They needed a little bit of help on something from Blumhouse. But overall, I loved the game, the story, completed it. And like the 2 stories of the characters of Vivian and Amy. So that was my number 4. Number 3 didn't get a mention, and I thought it was an awesome game with Senua's Sega, Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
They done Unreal Engine 5, done the first one. Again, it's one of those niche games, very heavy emotional narrative. Deals with we done the review on this one, Scott. Very psychosis, that different voices. But what Ninja Theory did with the audio, that 3D Spartan sound, and
so good.
It does mess with your head sometimes, but it helps you on some of the puzzles. And again, visually looked absolutely amazing. And I thought they should be in there in our top 5.
Yeah.
So number 2, like Corey, didn't really get around to playing it, but knew a little bit about it, was Black Myth. Wukong was my number 2. Again, on the rich Chinese culture, graphically looked amazing. Obviously, the idea is going from shrine to shrine, killing enemies for XP. The boss fight's supposed to be like Souls-like, which is always gets me interest. I'm not very good, but the combat, I like the idea of the parrying and the timed moves, and then having special spirits to help you progress through with special powerful abilities.
Number 1?
And my number 1 was Astrobot.
Yeah.
It was,
it
was just an amazing game. It just ticked all the boxes for me, basically.
Cool. What's your game of the year? Your personal?
I'm going for Astrobot. I just thought it's just one of those games. Like even now, I don't have much left to complete it, but I'm still going back and I'm thinking, okay, I'm missing something here. And then you find a little thing to pull, and it's like, right now I'm going somewhere.
Fair enough.
So yeah, Astrobot was my number 1.
Scott, let's kick it to you, buddy. You got about 2 minutes. What do you got on your list?
2 minutes. All right. Well, beginning quite opposite of Corey. Number 5 is Space Marine 2. Now, Space Marine 2, like everybody has said, it landed with such impact that, funny enough, the only thing it needed was the engrams, the things you call in from Helldivers. That would have been the only thing that would push that to an 11 out of 10. But I had so much fun with that. And the whole brother and hamming it up, I loved it. But moving to number 4, I'm gonna pronounce it Neva because I think it's Neva.
Yeah, it's back and forth.
You
But
hear
yeah, I
that
hear
in
ya.
the game. She says Neva, but I
Still going with
maybe
Neva.
maybe
Yeah.
it's a bit telling of myself, but my best friend is a cat, so I get a really close connection with Neva, and the idea that this companion, this guardian is seeing this journey through with you, and then you get into the overall arcing of what that game was, the relentless march of time and how time waits for nobody, the inevitability of death. It got into some really, really deep things, but you kind of had to pay attention to get there. So I loved that. But we go from that to number 3, which is Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. There's not a whole lot that needs to be said on this anymore because it was just a wicked slam out of the park. It was a home run for me, and it was exactly what Metroid Dread didn't quite get that itch. It
Fair.
scratched, but it didn't quite get it. This one did. But number 2, we have Fear the Spotlight. Fear the Spotlight, again, I feel like I've gushed about it so much now, but it really rested on its laurels. It didn't need a flashy look. It didn't need really, a huge budget. It needed a little bit of help to push it across the line, and that's really the only thing that could have happened. It was beautiful. But my number 1, and Drew knows this already, Dragon Age Veilguard.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Fair.
love that game. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in that to 100% it. This is my commitment. And whether I find the time to do that or I make the time by forgoing sleep, either way it's going to happen. But I love that game, and BioWare is back. I can't support it enough.
Fantastic. Michael, where's your top 5 at? What do you have?
Well, number 5, I thought it was Neva. Maybe it's Neva. We'll have to see how we pronounce that one.
We'll gain up on Scott. He doesn't matter.
That was what I was going to say. Then he had me worried. But no, I thought the art style was amazing. Just like I first saw the first trailer, and I was like, this is just so unique. It just sucked me in. I thought it was like a fun little game. And also, it's not that long, right? We have so many long games. Thought it was like a fun little game there. Number 4. Yeah, that's true. Number 4, I had Black Myth Wukong. As I said, we talked about it. Visually stunning. I think combat dropped it a little lower on the list for me because if you played a Souls game, you played Black Myth Wukong. That's kind of one where I'm like, okay, I wish I went a little more, but visually, just absolutely stunning. Number 3, I talked about it. Corey might be mad at me. I had Space Marine 2, but this was like a Space Marine 2 / Helldivers, and I almost this was basically they were the same game. I only leaned Space Marine, and because it blew me away, I played the game co-op with 2 friends. At the end, you all start getting different voice lines, and that's what hit it home for me. Because one of us would be like, "Hey, did you hear that?" And we're like, "No, you're going crazy. You didn't hear anything." Like, wait, I heard something. No, you didn't hear anything. So that like blew me away that you're getting, since you're different characters, you're getting different voice lines from the main villain. I thought that was absolutely wild. That's why I gave it the slight nod over Helldivers 2, but they're the same game for me. Number 2, I had Power World. I was the one who was really hammering this one to be on our list. Absolutely love this game. To me, this reinvigorated the survival genre for me personally. There's so many survival games, and this one just did it differently. I hopped into other games after that, and I was like, where's my pal? I want to go catch something. I want to go do this. Now, I was a big Pokemon kid growing up, so I'm sure that's why it spoke to me, but absolutely love Power World. And then number 1, even though I don't have a PlayStation, it was Astrobot for me. This game is stunning. I watched Drew play it.
Yeah,
and Corey said everything, right? It's for everybody, and there was no controversy. It was the game came out, we could play it. There was no day 1 patch, and unfortunately, in 2024, that makes Game of the Year. The only controversy is it wasn't on PC and Xbox.
So, I challenge you all to find somebody who doesn't like that game.
Oh yeah, that's just it.
No.
Scott, getting back to you real quick. What's your personal game of the year?
I really have to lean into Dragon Age.
Is it?
It has to be Dragon Age at this time. Yeah. Now there are some games that are just coming out now or released very shortly that might pollute that thinking in another couple months. But when you're talking about Game of the Year 2024, it has to be Dragon Age.
What about yourself, Michael? What's your personal game of the year?
It's Power World. 100% it's Power World. Absolutely love that game. Again, didn't play Astrobot, so it might beat it, but I played Power World. Love it. There's a new crossover event coming with Terraria, so I know I'm hopping back in for 2025 too.
Nice.
That might have me. I hope Nintendo doesn't just disappear that company.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
All right, here's my personal 5. Number 5 is Helldivers 2. And then I got back into it. I'm like, man, maybe it's a little low on my list. I gotta be honest. Rethinking things, right? Yeah. And then number 4, Neva. I don't care what you say, Scott. Is Neva for me. Dude, that game was cool. And like Michael said, right, it's short. We play so many games throughout the year, and they're always so long. So to have something that comes in nice and tight, it was nice to have that. Number 3 for me was Astrobot.
Ooh.
A little bit lower for me, but I thought it was well deserved. Number 2 is Dragon Age, the Veilguard.
Yeah.
Corey shaking. He's like, what is my number?
I'm trying to figure out what you picked for number 1.
Number 1 is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
There it is.
It sucked me right in. It was so good. Just hooked. Just absolutely hooked. Going back, finding new abilities, and then going back to where I was at before, where I couldn't reach certain things, right? And then getting past that. Personal game of the year? Talk about it every day, Michael. Predecessor. Man, I'm now almost 300 hours on PlayStation. I'm 100 hours on PC. Like, it is my game of the year. As frustrating as I can get at it because it's a competitive thing, but it is just one of those games, and man, it's so good to have back, and they just keep improving and making changes and stuff. Absolutely love it. I'm just keeping an eye on the time here, boys, because we're wrapping up real close.
It's pretty good.
Couple honorable mentions, though.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple, personal couple. In Otria, the last song, I'm not a Souls guy. This thing hooked me. I was in, absolutely loving it. It is so good, so much fun. I was able to parry in that game, something I'm never good at doing. Absolutely loved it. And Shrouded, I like that survival mechanic as well. Going out there, crafting, looting up, coming back, the way you're able to build everything. Fantastic. And the other one for me is Bellrite. That's a newer one coming out of the Donkey Crew team, right? They made the last Oasis. So to come in here and now with Bellrite, this has got a cool story. We're set in this medieval time, which I absolutely love that setting to start with. Then I'm going out and I'm building up my villagers now, and I'm starting to build out my own village until Steve puts a building on my road. But we'll talk about that another time.
That's a whole other hour long video.
That's a therapy session, boys. That's a therapy session right there.
Can I shout out one thing in the name of therapy sessions?
We got a minute.
Shout out I have to mention was Copycat. All right, I mentioned that my cat is my best friend. All right, this game made me cry straight up.
There you go. Eh? That is awesome.
I had to go have a dilly bar and sit outside for a little while for that one.
Yeah, guys,
that's the best part about video games.
It's been an incredible year. Thank everybody for joining us. Thank you all for being here. Can't wait to see what 2025 brings. That's going to be a busy one. Until then, everybody, this has been ITG. And of course, I'm Drew. That's Michael. That's Scott. That's Corey. That's Steve. We'll see you inside the game.